Yeah. I told them in the hiring process I was getting ready to go to Georgia for a week to spend time with Emily and their parents. I was like, is that cool? You know? Oh, yeah, no problem. All right, you need, scrubs for work. I went and bought like 4 pairs of scrubs.
Right.
Okay, while I was in college. Mine was tight, but work uniform. So I do like my first week of training. Okay, I'm going to Atlanta. I'll see you guys in a week. While I'm in Atlanta, they call me up and be like, yeah, you went out of town. You're fired.
Oh, that's the worst.
I'm like, what? What? And then I was like, screw it. Like, I remember I was in a movie theater and I walked back in because they like called my phone 3 times. And I think they fired me via voicemail. And that's,
Stop.
yeah, I swear to God.
That's even worse.
I told Emily, I'm like, I just got fired. She's like, from what? I'm like, the physical therapy clinic. She's like, but you just bought all new scrubs.
You're like, yeah, I freaking know.
Yeah, whatever. I'll say another week. Let's roll. Hey, everyone. Welcome to With That Being Said, a Rue Fitness podcast. I'm Bradley Schneller. This is
Sarah Altabello.
Fantastic. We're moving right along today. So today's icebreaker is if you have a funny firing story. So funny, like, not like I totally like jacked this up and whatever and got fired, but like if you got fired from a job and it was humorous. So please comment below.
Or you could be like us and just leave before it gets to that point.
Yeah. So Sarah and I have a good job of just leaving before you get fired. So
just Irish goodbye.
Yeah. Awesome. So throw that in there. Also, remember to give us a rating and review on iTunes or Spotify. We're on there. Just search Rue Fitness. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast. So
yeah, absolutely.
So today we're talking about failure.
Yeah.
I love this one.
Buckle up.
I spent my morning racking my brain about all my failures in life, and there's like plenty of little ones, only a couple really giant ones.
Yeah.
And then like really giant ones is relative to other people.
Right, absolutely. And I just want to give a shout out to Bradley. He has some handwritten notes, so he is very prepared for today. Good work.
Awesome. So, let's get rolling. Tell me a little bit about what failure is.
It's falling down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in its simplest form. And it reminded me of something I read. So I found this article, and that's kind of what we're basing this off of. But in the article, it talks about a baby falling, and that is kind of our first failure.
Right.
And how we don't think about that, and parents don't think about that, because surely your child will learn to walk one day. But at some point, we start to see failures as a bad thing versus something we just learn from. But to me, in its most basic form, failure is just falling.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely something that everyone needs to experience. I feel like if your parents don't allow you to fail when you were young, you're going to be a lot less successful when you get older. Or when you do fail, it's going to be a lot bigger deal when you're an adult.
100%.
So, and a lot of, go ahead.
And I think there's this misconception, or I hear some people talk about, and even in this article, they kind of talk about like finding joy in failure. I think for someone like me, especially, I almost like would beat myself up for like sometimes failing and not being like, oh, I immediately see the silver lining. Like, to me and my personality, failure is always going to suck.
Right.
Like, I find no joy in it, but I learn to be more okay with it and am able to take lessons from it faster. If that makes sense. Like, I don't like curl up into a ball, but I don't enjoy it either.
Right. Yeah, and I think it all depends on what you're failing at.
True.
And, we're going to talk about a lot of life failures today.
Yeah.
But we're also going to relate it a little bit to the gym. Now, gym failure is a lot less serious, So I don't think we should equate everything. But the lessons are still the same.
Oh, absolutely. They
So,
all link to one another.
let's start with lesson number 1. So these are not our lessons. They come from the article that we read. The interwebs, but we're going to talk about it. And the lesson number 1 is experience. So and this is more or less along the lines of what was the process of failure? How did it happen? And what can we walk away with in life? Or firsthand experience, or does it create a deeper understanding for the things we do? Mm-hmm. So before we get started, sorry, I jumped the gun on this a little bit. Tell me about one of your big failures, and then I'll tell you mine.
I know, after hearing yours, I'm like, do I want to go this route? They're kind of similar, though. But the biggest one that stands out to me, and kind of something I've been reflecting on a lot lately, was I failed myself a lot around preparing for college. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do acting. So in everything from preparing the auditions and not getting the reception I wanted from that, having very few colleges be interested in me, and then ending up going to a school, and even though my school closed, I just really failed at my major. I don't... No, just that entire experience was, I look back at as a failure, and I have learned a lot from. Mm-hmm. From prepping for college to going to college, and I hadn't listened to myself all the way. So of course I was going to fail.
Still regret there?
Not regret, because I've learned a lot. And I almost am glad in hindsight. I used to feel bad that I didn't give it my all, or I didn't accomplish some things, but I wouldn't be where I am now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So mine is a lot more lighthearted. And I went racking my brain. I'm like, man, what did I really fail at? And I had lots of small failures. I failed music theory, but Peter and I were just talking about, I didn't try. Right. And eventually I did pass. And a lot of my smaller failures were just because complete lack of effort.
Right.
And so I almost don't equate those as failures, mm-hmm. because I never threw myself fully into it and gave it everything I had.
Right.
So I do have 2 that I listed. I'll give the second one first. Is the second one really first? I don't know. But this one is...
if we're talking about semantics. Then.
So Emily and I created a company, along with one of our members, Brian Danos, a couple years ago called mm-hmm. Vital League. And it was supposed to be an application tracking software for nutrition challenges and right. stuff like that. And we did market research. We built all this stuff out. We threw money into it. We probably spent a year and a half building this thing out.
Yeah, and I was just on the outside, and the time and energy put into it was extensive.
And it was a giant failure. No one wanted it. It was clunky. It didn't turn out the way we wanted it to be. There was money lost that we couldn't recoup. And it was just all right, what did we learn from this? And we'll get into those lessons a little bit later. But, one big thing is that sometimes you fail and there's not a lot of things you could have done differently, and you just failed.
Yeah.
So the second one is a lot more fun. And this is probably the first time in my life, I don't know, first time in my life, but one that I can remember that I threw my entire self into, went hard at, blocked out all the noise, threw myself in, and then was told no. That's never really happened before. So I was convinced to try out for the 6'10 Stompers, and I did the audition. My audition is actually on YouTube. We'll include a link.
I was going to say, we have to mention that you can at least watch this somewhere.
Yeah, you can watch this. We'll include a link in the show notes. And it's a 2-part audition. The first one was they take I don't remember the time, let's say 50 dudes, and then they cull that down to 20 or 25, something like that. And in this process, they only gave out X amount of golden tickets. Golden tickets, you go straight to the second round. There was no ifs, ands, or buts to the finals. And I got a golden ticket, so I thought I was like
A shoo-in.
a shoo-in. I spent time with my cousin who was a 6'10" stomper, and I, learned all the moves. I was like, I was a music major, so my rhythm was pretty good. And I loved the dance. I was all in it. And I remember I still got that phone call, and they said, "Yep, you're just not what we're looking for." And I was crushed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was a phone call?
It was a phone call.
Man.
Yeah. And
that's like a stomach sinking
Oh.
feeling.
Oh. So I was like, I was crushed. Like for days, for weeks. Like
I feel like you've still got some.
Yeah, that whole first year,
to work through
I was like,
here.
"Fuck the 6'10" stompers." Like I'm out on that,
Oh, no.
like that kind of shit. And I never auditioned again. My buddy Joey made it. Congrats, Joey Lahat. I think his name for the Stompers is Megamind. I still watch all the Stomper stuff. We got 2 members, Mike Henry and Brent Bois, who are both Stompers. They do some dances in their uniforms.
Side note, did you know that Mike's name is Fezzik? Which,
No.
if you know me and my love, my deep-rooted love for the Princess Bride, I appreciate to no end.
That's awesome. What is Brent Benoit?
I saw it and I forgot.
It's
my friend
something
Steven
catchy.
was one for a long time, and he was the Rat King. Shout out. Okay,
Back to it. So I'm okay now,
Right.
and it took a couple of years to get over it. It hurt bad because I did just go as hard as I possibly could at it, and preparation wise.
It's also harder when you think when you. 2 sides of that is A, how much you're prepared, and B, thinking because of your connections and this golden ticket
Absolutely.
that it was all going to pay off and there's going to be this great culmination and you were going to be a
there was no way
stomper.
there's no way this group was made for me. That's what I thought, And so when I had that mentality going in and you were like, "No, we're not made for you," I was like,
yeah.
It was hard. And I look back on it and it's real interesting. Right when I didn't get chosen for the 6'10" Stompers was when I was creating Rue.
Yeah.
And judging by, my buddy Joey's experience in his first couple of years as a stomper with all the events you have to go to, I don't think I could have done both. No, and my life would be completely different had I been a stomper and trying to do this.
Not only that, but you love Mardi Gras to a very high degree. I don't know. But I can't imagine you not experiencing it, watching you the last few years, the way you experience it with your family.
Right.
And not being able to do a lot of the parades with your kids and your parents and the cousins and all of that because you were marching.
Yeah, it would have been difficult.
It might have been easier because you were starting the gym and Emily's pregnant, so you didn't have all of that. But I watched you go back and forth just this year about missing one parade, So I can't imagine you doing that and it all changes if you make it in, but it would have changed.
I am marching in Toth though with the Tiger Ragtag band.
You will not have beer sunglasses
I will not have
or googly eyes on. Yeah. In case you're wondering.
I hope that chick's not listening to this. So, all right. So we talked about experience. First lesson, experience. What was your experience?
Preparing for college and going to college and putting more energy into the people around me. Mm-hmm. And I was really worried about, I went somewhere where I knew no one.
Right.
I went to New Mexico. I had 0 connections. I knew not a soul going into it. And so my experience was that I spent a year of my life more concerned about making friends and what people thought of me than making myself happy. And that is something that's been a theme throughout my life.
Yeah. My experience was kind of, and I mean, this might go into growth or resilience or value as well, is that just because you want something bad enough and prepare to your best ability doesn't mean that it's yours to get.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of the way it is sometimes. I talk about this with either CrossFit or sports or anything, when someone maybe fails a tryout, is that sometimes there are other people that are just better.
Right.
It doesn't matter how great you are. If there's 10 other better people and they're only taking 10 people, well, it's just life.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my experience. And my experience from Vital League and that company not working out well was along the same lines as that. Again, no matter who you align yourself with, like we thought we had a great team creating this app. We were with, we auditioned. We interviewed multiple software companies, had all the connections there, had a great idea, market research, and then it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
That just happens.
I think a lot for me too, and maybe it goes into kind of this next one, like knowledge. A lot of it is that it has helped me redefine success, and kind of almost the thing I was searching so much for. I got once I started doing things that were for me.
Right.
Like I got a really fantastic community of people once I started being true to myself. Like there is maybe 2 or 3 people I stay in touch with from that time in my life. And I was so wrapped up in everyone else. But because I stopped defining like that as what was successful to me, I then got what I was looking for anyway. Right. Like it was just a byproduct.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Edison famously attempted to create this light bulb 10,000 times, and when they asked him about it, and he said, "Well, I found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb." Right.
Yeah.
And every time I failed, either with Vital League or the 6 Sense Stompers, or there was lots of little stuff, like maybe some internal things I failed with the gym, or with Wadigar or something like that. It's just, I've kind of switched my mindset over the years to where it's like, okay, I found out what not to do next time.
Right.
And that's kind of the approach that I've taken ever since, which brings us into the third lesson, and that's resiliency. And what that's made me have the ability to do is to put myself out there multiple times and not really care if it fails or not. I mean, not care is the wrong word to say.
Right.
But like not be hung up on if something
well,
fails or if it's not the best I wanted it to be.
Yeah, it doesn't devastate you. It doesn't make you question who you are.
Right.
Like failing at something does not change my core values or who I am to those around me.
Right.
And I think that has been what is huge for me, is just letting it go faster. Something, and I kind of tie it into a lot of aspects of my life, and you might have heard me talk about it before, but I was doing meditation, and I kind of have applied this everywhere. The guy was saying that a lot of people try to meditate and they get really frustrated because they can't find these like 10 minutes where their brain is completely silent.
Right.
So he was saying, think of it more as like seeing the thought and letting it go, and equated it to watching a car drive by you on the highway. Like you see it, you know it's there, and then it goes by and you never see it again.
Right.
And so I've used that with yoga or with a fail. Like, okay, It happened, it's gone. What's now? Like I'm still driving. I still have the road ahead of me. What now?
Yeah, I think that's like, it's a big difference between Emily and I a little bit, is that she tends to get hung up on a lot of that stuff. Like, I worked so hard to do this. It wasn't perfect. And I'm like, it's over. Move on.
Right.
Let's go. Yeah. It's just, we're different people with it.
Yeah. And like when I fail, my initial emotion 99 times out of 100 is incredible amounts of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And if my brain had a speaker system, I don't know if any of y'all would like me, but one of the things that like I often
people wouldn't like me either, but it's from different reasons completely.
But like when I am really anxious and really stressed out and having trouble sleeping, because that is primarily the way it affects me now, I will be laying in bed and just over and over, I'm like, there's nothing you can do about it now. There's nothing you can do about it now. And eventually, most times if I say it enough, I put myself to sleep. But yeah, that's a hard one for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson. In terms of like a lot of people just get hung up in that emotion right there instead of, going back to, what is the experience? What is the knowledge that I gain from this? How, and then the next one would be like, how can I grow from this?
Right.
And maybe that's something I'm really good at though, is like, I'm not perfect. I mess up a lot. You know what I mean? Like I mess up a lot. And either that's messing up at home with your partner, with letting that person down, which could be like mini failure, right? But it's also not getting hard. I said something to Emily like last night, like it happened, it's over with.
Right.
What are we going to do about it and create a solution for the future?
Yeah.
Like there's no point in getting hung up on something that already happened.
Yeah. That, and I think a lot of times we just have to be really accepting of our feelings. Like not to get all woo-woo about it, but like you're always going to have gut reactions and you can't change that. You can just change what you do from there. And like last week I got really frustrated with something at home and we were in the car on Sunday and I told Ryan, I was like, hey, I think I've been holding this against you. And it was really nothing, there was nothing you could do about it. But, and it wasn't like, I didn't enjoy saying that. But because I said it, it was out there and he was like, I mean, I didn't really feel that way, but if you did, like, I'm glad you're getting it out. So, I don't know.
Sometimes.
Growth. But it's not fun. Like,
side note,
you just let it
sometimes
happen.
you and I, we're similar in a lot of ways. It's like, we always think something is much worse than it actually is.
Oh, 100%. I will, like, feel like I snapped, and I will walk up to someone after, and I'll be like, look, I'm so sorry. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, but I said that thing, and I feel like I was a bitch. And they're like, no, you're fine.
Yeah, I'll text... when I was going at it about the air horns last week, and I'm like, I was just being a bitch. I
just stopped responding. I was like, I'm not getting involved.
I want to get back to growth, though. Go ahead.
Also, and I feel like I'm setting us, knock on wood, up for a lot of discomfort later, but please never tell Bradley and I, hey, can we talk later? And it's about something really mundane. Because we are going to talk to each other and be like, what is going on?
Sarah and I are the type of the people that will just like stew with us for a long time. That will drain if you have something to tell us,
my mental energy.
Just tell us. Okay. Yeah. All right, back to it. Growth.
Thanks. That was our PSA.
So one of the things I like about growth is I think this is really important for not only younger people, young adults, but we're always feeling like we're growing. And I've told some people before, like, just because your kids are in their 20s doesn't mean, or 30s or 40s doesn't mean you have to like stop being a parent.
Yeah.
And if they mess up, it's not like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. There's always growth to be learned from messing up. I know my parents won't go a single day without letting me hear it. Thank you, Mom and Dad, though, for the constant parenting. But what I was trying to say is, like, if you don't allow your kids to fail or yourself fail, then you're never going to mature as a person. You're never going to grow as a person, which is then going to hold you back from being truly successful later.
Absolutely.
I love this one in terms of working out. Like, this is a big one in terms of working out.
Right.
Because if you never push yourself to that brink of failure or push yourself to failure, and I'm not saying you do that all the time, but if you don't know what that feels like and you never get there, can you ever truly grow in terms of lifting?
Well, and not just physically, but can you ever see what you're like mentally capable of?
Right. This is kind of funny. I know Shane and Jonathan are going to love this one, but I'll never turn down a race.
Fact.
So I will race
absolute fact.
Anyone, any day. And look, I know there's just some people that are going to beat me. like Gerald Green, who is the like world record holder and a bunch of stuff for the U.S. Masters team right now.
Look, all I'm saying is I have been working here and a member here for almost 4 years now, and I'm still waiting for Bradley and Jance to race each other in a 400. Bradley at one time said he would wear Chucks, so I'm ready.
Oh, shit.
My body is ready.
Jance, I got Chucks on today. If you want to race, I'll go 400
few
right
beers
now.
when you offered to do it in Chucks, but
I'll do it in Chucks right now.
I've been waiting for this race for almost 4 years. I just want to throw that out there.
Jance, bring it, baby.
I
So
need time to get popcorn and other snacks.
point being is like, even if you know you're up against a tough task, okay,
Right.
and there is a chance of failure, if you don't allow yourself to do that task, then do you really know where you are as a
Right.
person, as an athlete, as a competitor, as a parent, any of those things? I definitely feel like if there isn't a chance for failure, are you really pushing yourself?
Right. Like when I did Raging Games, some people might have considered the fact that I didn't podium a failure. And it was stressful as all hell. Like it was a long day. It was long months leading up to it. But just getting through it was a huge success.
Right.
And doing as well as I did was a huge success. So on the flip side of that, it's like when something is really hard and you do push yourself to do it, knowing you might fail, if you end up doing better than you expected, that's honestly one of the best feelings in the world.
Also, what I like about this too is that what might be a failure to yourself could be seen as a success to other people.
Right. It's that whole idea of like, how do you define success?
Right. So like for you doing Raging Games, I don't know what your expectations were.
Yeah.
What were they?
I wanted to just survive the day.
Yeah.
Like I had a lot of things not related to
Right.
fitness going on in my life. And so it was like, can I get through the day without like losing
Right.
my mind? And then I finished, I think like 7th out of 16.
And that was your first individual RX competition.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So
like I had 2 chicks that had done the games a few months before.
to me, like just putting yourself out there in that vulnerable position
Right.
is a success.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't do as well in some events that you thought you could have, or maybe you didn't hit the podium, but you put yourself out there when a lot of people won't.
Right. Like the whole day was a success.
And I think about that all the time when, people create businesses, right? And the most successful people I know have failed a ton of times,
Right.
And they are trying things, and it doesn't work, I'll try another thing. It doesn't work, I'll try that thing until it works. But if you never put yourself out there, you will never be truly successful.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us to the value of failure. And that is the perfect definition right there. It's just, consistency in your attempts, and you will eventually succeed.
Yep.
So that's when failure turns into success. But if you never allow yourself to fail, you'll never succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better.
So, I love it. There's some ways to recover from failure that I wrote down. One would be like ignoring the naysayers. I did this a lot with Rue.
I'm sure. Like,
Whereas a lot of people saying,
starting a business,
you can't do this,
Yeah.
or, there was some internal negative speech to myself, which is like doubting myself a little bit. Whereas, do I know enough to start a gym? What will people think?
right.
All this
and
other
you
stuff.
have just 1 or 2 of those thoughts, and someone else vocalizes it,
Right.
and then they become huge. And if you don't watch it, like all-consuming
Right.
thoughts.
But I've never been someone not to stand down from a challenge, so I just rolled into it.
Yeah.
The other one is understanding that it's okay to fail. We talked about that. That's a big one. That comes from, I really feel like your support group. If you have people that back you up and support you in your ventures, you'll feel a lot more comfortable with failing.
Yeah, I was I don't remember who I was talking to. I think it was like a year ago, and I had this kind of like aha moment because I'm a very visual person, as we all know. But the idea of like thinking of your friends and family or your community as a safety net, and you don't have to use them, but
Right.
that like the idea is if you fall, it's there to catch you.
Right.
And a lot of us are not comfortable using that, and I don't think we should abuse that, but that those people are there and they're in your life for everything.
Yeah. It's something interesting is in CrossFit, there's a lot of competition to it, right? And even at Rue, we've kind of pared down that competition, so it's not competition every day. But I do think that competition creates growth. Therein lies the failure. But I see this from a lot of people. And there is at some point in every workout that someone can go full blast, full tilt, or as
full send.
Full send. Okay. And that's not all the time. You can't go full send all the time. But every now and then, you can go full send. And that's every single person in here. To some ability, with some workout, they can go full send. What I hate hearing are like excuses for why you didn't go full send. And that's a lot different. Oh, my knee is this or whatever. But like excuses build up, and you're almost like trying to knock down your workout because you're worried that someone else that you're not going to win.
It's a thank you, but
right. Yeah. And I just feel like it's okay to be like, man, I went hard at that workout. Sarah just did it better, like it's, and she beat me at it, but if I try to make excuses for my workout, and I'm not saying this is to the outside, but it could be internally. A lot of people do this internally. You can't really grow from that experience.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying you should do that all the time. Again, I'm not for someone going full send every day. But every now and then you should go full send just to check yourself and see where you are. The other one I got is using failure as leverage. And I think this is a really interesting one in terms of the things that I have done wrong at Rue. I've leveraged against myself to create a better path later. And that goes a lot along with growth. One that I have here is, were your expectations right?
Yeah.
Revisit your goals. And this is very timely. We just finished Wadi Gras this year. This was our first year going start to finish with just us. And things were looking a little bleak, but we finished strong.
There was a moment.
Right. And it was definitely a success. Now, the interesting thing is last year was the second year we had Wadi Gras. It was a combination of a friend of mine and us running it. We didn't get full access to it the entire time.
Right.
But it was definitely, we moved into a bigger venue. We tried to blow it up, and then we massively underhit the mark.
Yeah, we didn't even hit the same number of teams from year one. We lost teams.
7 teams. We lost 7 teams.
Specifically. But it was counting.
And our expenses went up. So from that aspect, it was somewhat of a failure.
Yeah.
Big time. But I also felt like we didn't set the expectations right with ourselves. Mm-hmm. We took over a month, not even a month before the actual event. So in hindsight, what our expectations were for the event weren't in alignment with what actually could have occurred.
They weren't realistic.
They weren't realistic at all.
For what we were capable of doing at the time.
Yeah, and this also is correlates to your fitness levels as well. For example, I always love this when people are doing competitions. If you do a competition and the workout is like the CrossFit Open, and there's a bunch of muscle ups in it,
right?
And you've never done a muscle up before, and then you're pissed off when you don't get a muscle up.
What did you expect?
Or let's say I've done one muscle up here or there 3 times a week. Not 3 times a week, but 3 times prior to this competition. All of a sudden, I'm going to get 20? No.
And once again, we can go back. I know I'm beating a dead horse. Go back into social media because you have seen 20 gyms post that this member got their first muscle up in that workout. And guess what? You would have never known that this person got their first muscle up if it wasn't for the gym posting it on their Instagram.
Right.
And now, because you are not that like 1% of people that were capable of hitting it and just like now you're tizzying. Like now it's a downward spiral.
Now it's a downward spiral. And you feel like a failure. You're not.
And the way I deem it is that you were a success for even trying.
Right. I absolutely agree. So my biggest thing is when people like downgrade the competition or downgrade their division because they don't feel like they can win in the upper division. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's like you can do everything RX in the gym, but you're going to compete in scaled. Come on.
So the first year I did beach brawl. I swore after this I was never going to let you put me on a team again, and I did it again the next year. I had been doing CrossFit for I think like 6 or 7 months, and other than ring muscle ups, other than one movement, I was physically capable of doing everything. And you forced me. I say forced, like you didn't tie my arm. I don't know,
right?
But you like put me on this RX team and we got demolished. Like we got totally destroyed. And at the time it felt like failure, but I mean, we could do it.
Yeah, we can do it. And I think that's a success in itself. So
it was. I learned a lot that year.
Like
wear lots of sunscreen. Heat rash is a thing.
Whew. So bringing to our last one, recovering from failure, and that was be creative, a massive action plan. And so we just finished up Wadi Gras. This year we're 2 days out. Yesterday was 2 days from Wadi Gras. We had a meeting. Here's all the things that...
Could you try again?
Why is my phone answering me?
I don't know.
That's bizarre. So... what is going on? Anyway.
She's trying to involve herself.
Right. We basically talked about all the things that didn't go right. And then all the things that we could do better. And now what are our big, hairy, audacious goals for next year? And what is the plan to achieve them? So we already have like a year plan in, ready to go. And that's
Emily's already got the budget.
Emily's already got the budget. We're already fighting about the budget. We're 72 hours out.
I've got a bunch of plans now in place in terms of social media and outreach, and I might invest in like a really big calendar to put in the office next door.
You don't have to invest. You can just take my credit card and then invest in it.
Well, it's still an investment.
Yeah.
Not directly out of my pocket.
Again, using failure to success. Okay, we're recovering from that. Ignore the naysayers. Understand that it's okay to fail. Use your failure as leverage, revisit your goals or reset the expectations, and then create a massive action plan. So there you have it, folks. I hope you guys had a good time. Remember to rate us and leave us a review on iTunes and Spotify. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe.
Also, remember to comment below if you have a funny story about being fired, and to check out Bradley's 6'10" Stomper audition.
Yep. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Holler.